Hello, The Sopranos is now one of the most successful American television dramas, but it was initially rejected by all the networks, even Fox, which had commissioned it. And no one on the project, including David Chase, its creator, director and writer, believed it stood the slightest chance of success after they'd made the first 2 pilot programs. Its subject is a family within a family. The main character, Tony Soprano, played by James Gandolfini, sees himself as a captain of industry, and his life in the suburbs with his wife and 2 kids is the very emblem of the American dream fulfilled. Second-generation Italian immigrants made good. But the second family Tony commands is a crime family, active in the New York Mafia. He's making a killing in the killing business. The originality The Sopranos has brought to the well-worn theme of the gangster genre has won it acclaim from the critics and a cult following. We interviewed David Chase. Some argue that it's inauthentic, but in the week we were filming, the New York media was full of uncannily apposite stories of mafia arrests.
Live from New York, this is the WB11 News at 10.
Federal authorities today rounded up dozens of alleged mobsters they say are associated with the largest crime family in the country, the Genovese crime family.
FBI agents paraded a motley crew of accused mobsters to federal court. Outgoing U.S. Attorney Mary Jo White announced massive indictments against 73 people.
Each place I go, only the lonely go. Some little small cafe.
Some scenes from The Sopranos are shot on authentic New Jersey locations, but the bulk of the series is shot here at Silvercup Studios in Long Island City, New York. While we were filming, Series 4 was in production, but David Chase has said definitively that Series 5 will be the last.
Recalls a love that used to be the dreams I dreamed. Only the lonely dream.
All right? Okay.
John Gotti, life in prison, no chance of parole. We've seen arrests and prosecutions in Florida and elsewhere of top mob figures.
How you doing? Put that back. Oh, fine.
Into the first round. Mosley, not yet. Working to establish.
What's the situation on the ground today, right now, in the mob?
Confusion, instability, vacuum at the top.
What caused the decline?
Your sister's ass.
An aggressive government policy over 2 decades to behead the crime families.
But wasn't it, at least in part, a disregard within the mob itself of the rules that served the old dons so well?
The shoe fits.
No doubt.
So, cheer me up, babe. Just when I thought I was out, they pulled me back in. Huh? Zappuccino. Fucking spitting image.
Vincent Rizzo.
Yes.
Former soldier in the Genovese family, government witness turned best-selling author. Do you agree with U.S. Attorney Braun?
The party's over.
How did you first come into television drama, and what brought you into it in the first place?
I became a cinema fan, a film fan. Well, I'd loved movies all my life, but then in the 60s, I was going to school here in New York, and I started seeing foreign films, and it was kind of different than anything I'd ever seen, and I began to think, well, maybe that's something.
Was this the Antonioni, Bergman, Fellini?
It was all the usual suspects. But I think the one that really turned me was Polanski. It was, I guess, Repulsion was one, and then Cul-de-sac, and I thought, well, I began to see people could have a personal vision that I didn't know much about movies before that. I thought they came out just like Fords or Chevrolets. They came out from a factory. And I saw those movies and I thought, wow, it's different somehow. I thought maybe that would be something I could do. I'd been mostly interested in being a musician, being a rock and roll musician, and that wasn't going to happen. And so then I got interested in film and went to film school and still wanted to be in features and do movies, but then I got sidetracked by money into television.
How did the sidetrack happen? What was the...
Well, a friend of mine and I wrote a screenplay while we were still in film school. And we tried to hustle it and sell it, you know, send it all around town, just the hopes of getting a job or selling the screenplay, and, you know, hoping to get a movie made out of it. But that didn't happen. But a TV producer read it and said, why don't you try to do a TV episode?
And that started it.
That started it.
You woke up this morning, got yourself a gun. Your mama always said you'd be a chosen one. She said, one in a million, you got to burn the shine. But you're born under a bad sun with a blue moon in your eye.
You did an immense amount of television drama. You're talking Rockford Files, you're talking about some very high-class stuff. What were you learning there?
I guess what I mostly learned from doing television was how to construct story. Because I don't know, it's strange. You know, I've seen a lot of films and a lot of movies, and I went to film school, and yet there was so much of it I didn't get. I didn't know that I didn't understand. I thought things I didn't even know what a movie was supposed to be, strangely enough. Maybe just a bunch of effects together. I don't mean special effects, but just this kind of an effect and that kind of effect. And I really didn't understand the importance of story. And working in television, you know, I think most writers who work in films and TV, what they like to do is dialogue. Blah, 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 blah. That's fun. And so the idea of constructing a story felt like a mathematical puzzle to me, and I really dreaded it. But that's how I learned, was from doing television, because you have to have a story going in. You can't just start writing on page one and hope that it comes out to be exactly 48 pages with all the right rhythms and things. Well, those are also bad habits that I picked up too, I'm sure.
Are there any mechanical rules that you learned that there should be, I don't know, a build-up of climaxes once every 7 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever, that sort of thing?
Well, working in network television, I learned all those rules. You know, because I guess they build to commercials. And so you really didn't have to know all that much because the commercials kind of decided it for you. And in network television, there was always a problem in that there's I guess, you know, the standard Aristotelian thing is 3-act structure, but in network television, there's 4 commercials. So there was four pieces instead of 3. And so that last one was always a problem because 3 and 4 should have been the same one. But they're broken up, so that was always a problem. And I guess I did learn those rules, but it was really just imposed by the commercial structure of it. And that plus get it moving quickly, you know.
What were the bad habits?
Those. The same ones. The same ones. This is the idea that people won't sit still to let you get started in an interesting way. People will not be pulled in gradually. You have to, like, smack them around to get their attention.
Mr. Soprano?
Yeah.
Have a seat.
And it's probably true, because people are in their homes, they're not going to listen or be aware of subtext. So if you mention something very casually in the first act, when you bring it back in the second or third, people are not going to put those connections together. And, you know, I'd read a lot of plays when I was in school and movies that I'd liked. I'd seen all those subtleties working, where a character says something which then comes back fourfold later on, but it was said very casually, or... and that doesn't go down too well in regular TV. People in normal American TV drama, they always say what's on their mind. In fact, they say it and they say it and they tell you exactly what they're thinking. They don't be quiet, and they're not passive aggressive, which a lot of people are. They don't have grudges, which we don't. You know, what's wrong with that guy? But you don't know. And in a conventional television drama, they're always telling you exactly how they feel. And so those were the bad, I think, lessons I picked up.
My understanding from Dr. Cusimano, your family physician, is that you collapsed, possibly a panic attack. You were unable to breathe.
They said it was a panic attack. Of course, all the blood work and the neurological work came back negative. And they sent me here.
You don't agree that you had a panic attack? How are you feeling now?
Good. Fine. Back at work.
What line of work are you in?
Waste management consultant.
Where did the idea of Sopranos come from?
Well, I had grown up in New Jersey. I'm Italian-American, and I was always interested. I was sort of over-determined to do this show. I'd always been interested in this stuff. My father and I used to watch The Untouchables, which was a Desilu production in the, I guess, early 60s or something like that. And I always really liked that a lot. And I was interested in mob stuff because of my, you're not supposed to say this, but because of my Italian-American background, I was interested to see that there were these criminals who were Italian-Americans like my family who didn't do any of that stuff, were doing all these other things. I was just always, I guess it's testosterone boy stuff that I got interested in originally. And it stayed with me. Then The Godfather was a big development, and then Mean Streets, and was a huge one.
And that reactivated or reinforced your interest and thought it could be done in different ways?
The idea for The Sopranos was a feature film idea that I had, which came out of the idea of, my mother was kind of sort of a very singular character, eccentric. And I would always get laughs telling stories about things my mother had said to me, these outrageous, sort of selfish, narcissistic, strange, you know, extremely maternal statements. And people would always laugh. My wife used to say to me, well, you should really write something about your mother. And I said, nah, but who wants to? She said, people always laugh when you tell stories about her. And I said, yeah, but what's it going to be? Just a bunch of her lines. And then another friend of mine said I should do it. And this friend of mine said, you should do a story about a TV producer, which I was, and his mother.
Me, Ma.
Who are you?
And that just didn't appeal to me.
Ma, open the door.
But then for some reason I thought that maybe it would be okay, or be better, if the guy in the story was somebody who was much tougher than me.
Anthony?
Yeah, it's me. Open the door. Hi, how are you? Jeez, Ma, get some air in here.
I complain all the time, and I complain and I, whine and all that stuff. If it was a guy whose code prohibited him from doing that him going to a shrink would be more permissible. It wouldn't seem so self-indulgent. So I thought, oh, how about a wise guy? A mobster and his mother, and they go to war with each other because of a nursing home, and she winds up trying to have him killed, and so that was the story. That was the first season of The Sopranos was the plot of that movie.
I'm not going to that place.
Then I will go to court, and I will get a durable power of attorney over you, and I will place you there.
Then kill me now. Go on, go into the ham, and take the carving knife, and stab me, here, now, please.
The networks, I think it was commissioned by Fox, wasn't it? It was nurtured, and then the networks turned it down, you went to HBO. Do you regard that as a lucky break now?
Oh, yes, I do. Yes, I most certainly do.
Because HBO gave you freedoms that you wouldn't have had on the networks. What were they?
Well, I just felt that there was a great deal more trust at HBO, a great deal more trust in the basic idea and the show itself and in the people who were going to do it. Trust in myself, trust in the actors, trust in all of us. Very often what happens is they will buy something or they'll contract to do something, which is maybe a little bit risky for them, the other networks. And then after they've done that, they become frightened of it and try to shave it down, plane all the bumps out, cook the vitamins out of it. And HBO never did that. Once they had committed to doing it, once they'd committed to having me do it, then all they wanted me to do was to deliver on the premise and make sure that it was tough enough, it's not a great word, edgy enough. They wanted what they'd seen in the script.
And they weren't worried about the effing and blinding, the language. They weren't worried about the violence. They weren't that didn't worry them.
No.
You all right?
My leg's broken, the bone's coming through.
Let me see. I'll give you a fucking bone, you prick! Where's my fucking money?
So you had coffee.
Right.
The South Bank Show, sponsored by Taylor, sponsored by Taylors of Harrogate.
So you're carrying all this guilt when your mother is clearly someone who has great difficulty in maintaining a relationship with anyone.
But she's my mother. You're supposed to take care of your mother. She's a little old lady.
Not to you. She's very powerful.
Bullshit.
You accord this little old lady an almost mystical ability to wreak havoc.
Well, let me tell you something. You definitely don't want to get her started.
The idea of bringing a mobster to a psychiatrist, it's Tony Soprano goes to Dr. Jennifer Murphy, is a marvelous clash, isn't it? And his code of silence, saying nothing, and her expectation that the whole point, the only point, is to say everything.
Mm-hmm.
And you have these two different codes, you know, Freud against the mob, really.
I think the way it's helped is because as much as any of us really know about mobsters, and none of us really know that much because it is a secret society and you can't penetrate it. And I think that the device has let the audience understand what's going on in his mind, even though he doesn't talk about his business a lot.
There are some people who are not ideal candidates for parenthood.
Come on. She's an old sweetie pie.
What were some of the good experiences you remember as a child? The loving, warm ones?
I think that's also funny, too. The audience has seen him do these unspeakable things. Then he comes in and he says to her something completely different, which is totally innocuous. I mean, that's one of the funny things about Tony Soprano, I guess, and I've never really thought about it, is how much he lies and how funny that is.
Yeah.
He tells everybody a different story.
Yeah. I don't suppose it came out of the conflict with the analyst, but one of the things that's interesting, how much use, in some episodes, you make of fantasy and dreams.
Well, the first thing I should say is, I think our dreams are piddly nothing compared to David Lynch. I think there's nothing like that. I've never seen a filmmaker capture the dream state like that.
Get out of the car.
I mean, I just came here from Deep River, Ontario, and now I'm in this dream place.
Someone is in trouble. Something bad is happening.
Could be someone's missing, maybe.
That's what I'm thinking.
Silencio. Silencio.
Our dreams are slightly different because the show is about psychiatry, and psychiatry does go in there and, you know, often ask you, what did you dream? And you interpret those dreams. In like David Lynch's stuff, there isn't really any interpretation of dreams. The dreams are just presented as the movie or as part of the movie. But ours, there's sometimes a key or a clue in it. And the reason I felt we could do that, or should do it, was because of the psychiatric nature of the show.
Where you going?
I don't know.
What are you looking for?
Somebody's looking for me.
Who?
I don't know. Our true enemy has yet to reveal himself.
The show was going to be about finding out that his friend was a rat. And so the choice would be to find out in real time. He hears it from, it'll be like a procedural. So-and-so said this, and so-and-so said that, and now we have the proof, and we sneak in, and we find it. And I thought, how boring, we've seen all that. Wouldn't it be better if he just had some sense of it himself in his subconscious, and that it came out, so we don't have to do the same kind of thing we've seen all the time. We wouldn't have to have real conversations about this. That he wouldn't know it, but that he was dreaming this mess, and it was making him sick, and that was what finally came out.
Fuck. You passed me over for promotion, Tom. You know. How much shit you give him? A lot. Jesus, push. Fuck if I wait for it all to end, huh? Yeah.
What obligation do you feel to reality in this? I mean, do you think that are you offering us in the sessions between, of course it's film, fiction and it's a film, but are you offering us in the sessions between Dr. Melfi and Tony Soprano, are you offering us, you're saying to people, look, this is what really goes on?
We try to. We have to steer those sessions. I mean, what goes on in most therapy sessions is nothing. You know, it's 5 years. You go in and you say the same thing over and over again, and you feel better when you leave, and then as you're crossing the street, you've already forgotten it. And then you come back again and do the same thing. And I think therapy probably, you know, I think there's a point at which therapy does help people, and sometimes it may help a lot of people all the time, but it's quite a long, drawn-out process. So we have a drama, so there has to be a point to a lot of the scenes that we show. So, but as much as possible, we try to make it seem realistic, and we base it simply on, I mean, I went to therapy, and it's based on what I felt those sessions were like.
Some women are sexier when they dress simple, you know, understated. I don't mean... Fuck it, I don't know what I mean. Like you.
How like me?
You play it down. Now, it's obvious you got a killer body under there. And don't get me wrong.
Right.
Not only do you play it down, but you're gentle. Not loud. Sweet sounding. Like a mandolin.
The obligation to realism on the other side, you said nobody knows much about the mob and so on. There have been quite a lot of books, and I'm sure you've read most, if not all of them. So what realism do you bring to the mob in these?
Well, we try to, you know, we've tried to find out as much as we can, and read all the books you've talked about, and tried to talk to people who've had anything to do with it, and I guess the reality, we try to make it as real as we know it to be.
Do you have people who help you, who've been in the mob, know a bit about the mob?
We've never really reached out to anybody who's been associated, who's been a member of it. Actually, we did early on, then that began to seem like not the right thing to do.
But what about external things? I just assume from seeing it that a man of Tony Soprano's position would live in a house like that, would have the material rewards that he has, would eat in restaurants like that. That strikes me as being authentic.
Well, some people would say no. Some would say yes, he would live in a house like that. Some would say no. I mean, there have been, you know, John Gotti lived in a very unprepossessing house in Queens. A two-story, kind of Archie Bunkerish looking house. Paul Castellano lived in a big house kind of like Tony's in Staten Island. So there's a range.
Go on.
Next, I had a breakfast meeting. I was called in to consult by a garbage hauling company I represent.
These Polacks, they'll haul paper, plastic, and the aluminum for $7,000 a month, less than Dick.
So they pay us 40 times a month for stealing our stuff.
That's the thing. They won't. He says if he can tell the commie bosses back in Czechoslovakia to go fuck themselves, he can fucking tell us.
Oh! I give up. Fucking garbage business.
Yeah, I know. It's all changing.
Let me see what I can do.
Are you sure?
What about the violence? Is that based on reports of violence in newspapers, hearsay, police records?
It's based on reports of violence in newspapers. It's true stories that you read, books and things. And then also it is a movie, so part of it's based on movies. Sure. But there's not as much murder as, in reality as there is in the show.
My nephew, Christopher, was handling the garbage contract problem. But on this, I will also not go into
When I was a
detail.
little boy, at the age of 5, I had something in my pocket. Keep a lot of folks alive. Now I'm a man, May 21.
Emil, cola.
Chris Multisanti.
My Uncle Ebsen doesn't know I came. But if we make any progress here tonight, I'll have to tell him.
Hey, we have to make progress, Email. We gotta stop the madness. Garbage business is changing. You and I are the younger generation. We have issues in common.
Emil.
Where'd you go to high school? Was it Poland?
I'm not Polish.
Well, Czechoslovakian. What's that? That's a type of Polak, right?
We came to this country when I was 9. I went to West Essex.
Yo, Money, you used to play my cousin Gregory in football. He went to Boone.
Where's his stuff?
Yes. The reason for the visit. Got it all deployed for you. Taste the wares, Email.
Emil.
Back down, can't do. Bring back the second. John the Conqueror. My man. Spell him.
Show, sponsored by Tailors of Harrogate.
At the age of 5, I had something in my pocket. Keep a lot of folks alive. Now I'm a man. May 21.
Adriana!
Had you people in mind when you were writing it in the first place? So that cast, which seems sort of to have walked into the skin as if it had been hanging up ready for them to get into.
They're unbelievable. I had nobody.
They just came in
no
off
one
the
in
street.
mind. They came. Yeah, I mean, no, I knew of some of them. I knew I'd seen Michael's work. I'd seen Lorraine's work. I'd seen Edie's work. I'd seen all of them in other things, but at no time did anyone ever say, "Oh, this is perfect for Tony Sirico." Or something.
I think a lot of the cast actually is from New Jersey or around there, so you know sort of what that means in terms of relationships and the language and, you know, the way you speak and things like that. I mean, you know, you grew up with it, so you're familiar with it anyway.
I managed to get the drop on him. Do you mean to say I managed to get the drop on him? Or is he saying Manoj, like Manoj l'American?
My Tennessee William.
What's your process? I mean, how often do you write and rewrite it, and then
A lot. It's writing. I mean, I'm not the only one who writes on
Yeah,
the
of
show.
course
There's,
not,
we have other producers and producer writers, but we do a lot of writing and honing and rewriting.
Can you give people an idea about how many times the script is changed?
12 to 15 times, I would guess.
It says in these movie writing books that every character has an arc. You understand? Like everybody starts out somewhere, then they do something, something gets done to them, changes their life. That's called their arc. Where's my arc?
Some I write from the ground up, and some other people write, but it's the job of a TV executive producer. The writing is really or the development of scripts and the delivery of written material is really what the job's about.
Are you the sort of director who is surprised when actors bring to it what you hadn't expected?
Yeah. It's funny, because before I had ever directed, I was completely hung up on, well, I used to go through this big thing like, I'm not somebody who screams at people, so I could never be a director, because you have to whip people. You know, you see, the guy with the leggings and the riding crop and the bullhorn, you think, oh, I can't do that. But I didn't realize how collaborative it is, and that people actually do respond to good ideas, you know, or ideas. You don't need to scream or anything like that. But I was also, as a writer, I was completely hung up on the page. You know, you'd have a line that went like this, ... and then like that. I go, he didn't put the ... in there. Where's the pause? And I would, you know, you freak out at every little thing, because then you get on a set and you realize that things that people bring are, you know, just amazing. Or things that happen by accident that nobody foresaw. That's the best part of it.
What's brought to Tony Soprano, to give us an example?
What?
To Tony himself. What was brought there that wasn't on the page, I think?
The story I tell the most was in the making of the pilot. At the end, we shot the end of the show first, naturally. And there was a scene in which he was cooking with his friends, and he sees Chris go off and sulk by himself because Chris feels he hasn't been appreciated enough for killing this guy.
You know, my cousin Gregory's girlfriend is what they call a development girl out in Hollywood, right? She said I could sell my life story, make fucking millions. I didn't do that. I stuck it out with you.
I'll fucking kill you. What are you gonna do, go Henry Hill on me now?
And in the script, it said, Tony slaps him in the face. Tony slaps him and says, what are you, crazy? I'll fucking kill you. Something like that. That's what it said in the script. And what I pictured was somebody going like, hey, wake up. What are you, crazy? That's what I pictured. When we did it, and Jim was absolutely right, when Chris said that, he lunged at him, dragged him out of the chair, the beer bottle in his hand fell, and he was like just about ready to kill him, and I thought, yeah, that's the real deal right there.
How many mobsters are selling screenplays and screwing everything up?
She said I could maybe even play myself.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Forget Hollywood screenplays. Forget those distractions. Huh? What do you think I have in that office?
That was completely wrong, what I had. To have a guy say, I'll go sell my story to Hollywood, it would, and I saw Tony Soprano very clearly right at that moment. That was the first day of the pilot.
Did that?
And it changed everything.
I was about to say.
It did, it changed everything.
To the script.
It changed. No, we didn't do anything. We didn't rewrite it or anything. It just, I began to think, that's right, this guy's not some nice guy who's a, you know, middle manager. He's a very tough guy. Very dangerous guy.
You listen to me now. Before you do any more serious damage to yourself or your grandchildren's inheritance, you're gonna stop living alone right now.
I'm not going to that nursing home.
Green Grove is a retirement community, and it's more like a hotel at Captain Teeb's.
Who's he?
The captain owns luxury hotels or something, I don't know. That's not the point. The point is, I talked to Mrs. DiCaprio over there, and she says she's got a corner suite available with a woods view. It's available now, but it's gonna go fast.
Of course it's available. Somebody died.
Oh, Ma, you gotta stop. You gotta stop with this black poison cloud all the time, because I can't take it anymore.
Oh, poor you.
I think Tony Soprano as a character gets a huge amount of complexity from David Chase and a huge amount of humanity from James Gandolfini. That performance is so brilliant. He allows you to understand who this character is, even if you disapprove of what he does. He has his business. Sometimes he kills people. He doesn't kill innocent people. That's his code. And that is very traditional in the mob genre.
Don't you got school tomorrow? So? So it's late. Go to bed. Did you hear me?
I hope you apologize to him.
For what?
Tony, you promised him you were going to be at his swim meet.
Oh, shit, I forgot.
How could you forget?
Something I had to do.
Tony, he almost came in second. You should have seen his face when you weren't there. People will say, oh, it's a mob show or whatever, and I guess it is, but, you know, from my standpoint, I shoot my stuff in here, in a kitchen, in a suburban American kitchen, you know, and in the bedrooms that are all around here. So it seems to me a family story. Wherever you were, it couldn't have been more important than letting your son know that you care about him.
No, only you care. Fuck you.
No, fuck you! Fuck you!
What's wrong with you?
Tony is this kind of cuddly, charming, compassionate guy, and then he'll turn around and kill somebody in the same episode. And I think it confuses people and shakes them up as to how they're supposed to feel about these people. And I think that's, I think it's sort of life-giving. I think that might be why people are responding to it.
The women are, I mean, there's so many women, but just to talk about Carmela and Livia. Carmela seems to me to be the sort of moral centre. Can you tell me how you arrived at the Carmela and her Catholicism and her disapproval and her complications?
Well, I guess I would argue about the fact that she's disapproving. The way I see this show is that everyone in it has made a deal with the devil, and that everyone who comes in contact with Tony Soprano makes a deal with the devil, and I think that's really the story of, I guess, organized crime. And I think that Carmela has made a deal with the devil.
So you think she doesn't disapprove of him?
What's she doing there? She complains a lot, but she's still there. And I think she's conflicted, like they all are. I think even Tony's conflicted. I don't know how realistic that is, that Tony would be as thoughtful or reflective or conflicted as he is about it. I think Tony's problem is he just thinks too much, probably because of his mother.
Nice of you to pick me up for the party, Junior. At least somebody cares about me.
These kids today.
I suppose he thinks once he's got me locked in a nursing home, I'll die faster. And then he won't have to drive me anywhere. Well, if his father was still alive, you can bet your boots he'd show more decency and respect for his mother.
My brother John was a man among men.
He was a saint.
The idea that your own mother would try to have you killed is amazing, but somehow extremely plausible in this world. And it explains a great deal about Tony and how bereft he can be of emotion and how tough he is. And it's also just the most incredible depiction of an individual character, that Livia, who starts out as the helpless mother, sitting in her chair, waiting to be visited and feeling sorry for herself, puts out a hit on her own son. It's the kind of turn that The Sopranos takes that's completely unexpected and really wonderful because you couldn't imagine it yourself.
Our friends say to me, Junior, why don't you take a larger hand in things? Something may have to be done, Livia, about Tony. I don't know.
When I look at The Sopranos, what bothers me the most is that it's being billed not as the mafia family, but as the average Italian family. And Italians are still discriminated against, you know, at this day and age. And the discrimination is not overt, it's covert. But this type of program just fosters those negative stereotypes. And I think that it's very detrimental.
You must truly repent, genuinely and honestly. And in the future you must renounce all these actions, and then God will absolve you.
I don't know, Father, I'll try. But I still love him. I still believe he can be a good man.
Then you help change him into a better man. And then you will have done good in God's eyes.
The way women are portrayed, you know, really stupid. Your husband is cheating on you, so what do? You know, well, you either go and choose to perhaps flirt with the priest and think that maybe you can have an affair with him, or else the wallpaper hanger. You know, it's just an incredible distortion of Italian norms and values.
There are people who complain about the show, who say, you know, this is an unfair depiction of Italians. It's stereotypical, and we're made to look like horrible people. And then when you meet people, not just Italians, but even Italians, they're just so can't wait to describe the fact that their mother actually went out with some girl who went with, you know, I don't know, with who knew somebody whose priest was the same as, you know, Paul Castellano. It's these tenuous connections. I guess it's because it has like a Robin Hood. It's like there's some kind of glamour to it. You know, excitement.
Yet there's fairly forceful lobby of Italian Americans raging away out there in this country saying, you're giving us a bad name, we are not like that, we object. It isn't one or two letters going to HBO, there's an organisation out there, isn't it?
There's several of them.
Organised disapproval.
Yeah, there's several of them.
How do you take them on?
I've always said that I'd rather just deal with that subject within the show, which I think we have done.
You do, yeah.
He had a real breakthrough last week.
Yeah, breakthrough what? Somebody's jaw?
You're right. I'm wasting my time. Better I should boycott with the National Italian-American Foundation and save the world from, what is it this week? Gangster?
Very idea ABC would even think of producing that stereotypical Goomba fest.
Richard, we're an advertisement for the American experiment. We did great.
Early on, we had a meeting, and there was 3 representatives of 3 organizations, and we went to the Beverly Hills Hotel for this big sit-down, myself and a gentleman from HBO, to talk to these 3 leaders, and none of them had seen the show. So I thought, well, in fact, one of them said, it's right here in my briefcase. As soon as the meeting's over, I'm going to watch it. And I thought, well, what are we talking about here?
Other movies ripple through the whole series very affectionately, usually for comedy. I mean, you obviously enjoy doing that.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
I thought
You've been doing this all fucking night to me, you motherfucker.
You want the drink now? Okay, I'll bring it to you.
Yeah, well, give me a fucking drink. Move it, you little prick. You walk like fucking step and fetch a Everybody else, you'll fucking run. Run for me, you prick. Dance. Dance the fucking drink back here. The little prick. Hey, what's that movie that Bogart made?
Which one?
The one where he played a cowboy. Only the one.
The Oklahoma Kid. Shane?
Oklahoma Kid. Shane. Oklahoma Kid. That's me. I'm the Oklahoma Kid. You fucking farmer.
Stay away.
Dance.
Come on.
Dance. Yahoo, you motherfucker.
Come on.
Now he's moving.
Get a pastry box. Move it! That's better. Now fill it with cannoli, Schliadel, and Napoleons. Good. Give me the box. Come on. Next time you see my face, show some respect.
I will.
You motherfucker! You shot my foot!
I began to realize that The Godfather, especially, was very important to the real guys in organized crime. That movie is I don't know what you want to call it, is a bellwether for them. And so it just was interesting to me that a movie would influence. You have a thing called a gangster, then you make a real gangster. You make a movie about a gangster, then the gangster watches the movie and it just becomes a loop. I just always liked that.
What's the matter with you? Is this how you turn down a Hollywood Pinocchio that cries like a woman? What can I do? What can I do? What is that, man? Ridiculous. You spend time with your family?
Sure I do.
Good. Because a man that doesn't spend time with his family can never be a real man.
You stupid motherfucker. How fucking dare you?
Take it easy.
You don't think. You disrespect this place. That's the reason why you were passed the fuck over.
It's my fault she's a klutz.
Do you think it's too violent in parts? I mean, the Dr. Melfi thing, or the battery to death of the prostitute, do you think that was too violent? Do you have rules about how violent you can be?
No, we don't really have any rules, but it was our feeling about the Dr. Melfi thing that unless you really understood how bad, well, really, I mean, unless you understood what that experience, how horrible that experience was for her, you wouldn't see what a sacrifice it was for her not to tell Tony.
Shut up. Don't turn around. I said shut up. I got a knife. I'll cut you, bitch.
Help!
shut. Oh.
Give me all my money!
The only way to make the audience complicit, and really complicit in the desire to tell him, was to be very graphic about it. So that you'd go like, oh my God, wow, that really took a lot for her to
say no,
do the right thing, to be true to her profession and the oaths that she's taken, to say no. That really took a lot.
I think there may be conflicting opinions about the wisdom of that rape scene. But as a director, I just took it as an opportunity to demonstrate the seriousness of rape. And I thought it was very, very interesting that Melfi chose not to tell Tony.
What's the matter? Hey, come on. What'd I do? Come on, huh? Hey. Come on. What did I do? What's the matter? God, what's the matter?
Go sit over there. We'll do this.
You've talked in the past about the restrictions of television. Did you feel restrictions making The Sopranos? Do you feel restrictions making The Sopranos?
No. None.
Because I think one of the great strengths of television has been just the length, the amount of time. 13 hours and then another 13 hours and 13 hours. Feature film can be very good, 2 hours, 20 minutes. The development that you can do with these enormous lengths of time can be terrific.
It's kind of a paradox because, I've been very unhappy doing television almost my whole life. I always wanted to be in the movies, and I never had the guts to go out and actually do it. So I stayed working in television, and I began to have this awareness kind of later on in my TV career that the good thing about it was just what you mentioned, that you could develop small characters or little things. You could spend time on the little moments, because if you're doing 13 or 22 shows, that allows that to happen. And it has, I guess people call it a novelistic thing. But I wasn't aware of that. That was an acquired taste for me. That was something I had to experience before I thought, oh, this is good.
Do you now think that television, in The Sopranos, for instance, let's stick to that you've done at least as much as you could have done with a feature film, and I would suggest sort of more, simply because of the time?
I don't know. I don't know. I think there's something basically different about the experience of watching a movie than a television show. That you go into this communal hall, and it gets really dark. It goes completely dark, and then this huge thing. It's not about size necessarily. Oh, it's huge, but it's not necessarily that bigger is better. But that experience of going into a dark room with a bunch of other people, and then this, especially in the black and white days, this thing, the lights go on, and this thing lights up on the screen, and you can see every nuance. That's different from watching television. I think it's a little more magical.
What's new? How is the world treating you? You haven't changed a bit. Lovely as ever, I must admit. What's new? How did that romance come through? We haven't met since then. Gee, but it's nice to see you again.